How's it going, YouTube? Tyler, the Field Service Tech here, guys. What we got going today is more services out at my usual site. Today I'm doing a bunch of services on boom lifts. And boom lifts that we're working on right now is a Genie S65 boom. So services on booms, guys, are about as easy as it comes. Really the hardest part is keeping the containment from basically the oil filter, because it makes a big mess and you don't want to get all that oil to where it leaks, because a lot of these booms are used indoors and you don't want spilled oil coming out of the machine. So really the booms are super easy to service, cut and dry. They're actually probably one of my favorite things to service because they're just easy. But anyways, guys, let's get started here, and thank you for watching. All right, guys, so the hand tools you're gonna need, you may need a hammer, I'll show that to you later, and you may need a pry bar. But for sure, you're gonna need a 15/16 socket, a hose cutoff pliers to stop fuel flow, probably a strap wrench because people over tighten filters, and for sure a standard claw wrench, whatever you want to call it. I like to have a set of Nipex pliers for the fuel water sensor, and I like to have this lineup bar or vampire stake to hold the engine, because usually they're missing the pin. And then obviously gloves, pig mats. Got all my stuff already out from the first ones I did. Basically, you just need to be able to catch oil. On this one, I'm actually going to use my sucker because it's easy. But let's get started. All right, guys, first step is to pull out the 15/16 bolt that holds the engine from swinging out. It's way back up here in the back of the machine. Every boom lift has this bolt. You might be asking why there's all this plastic. When they're on these sites, they're required to have, they're called basically diapers. They have them on the bottom of the machine, and a lot of contractors put them here too, for if there's any leaks that come out of the engine, like people that do a messy job of changing oil. These people are actually smart. They have a pig mat and everything in there, because it gets messy, and I'll show that to you here in a little bit. Take your bolt out. Now you're gonna try to pull this engine out. On these Genies, the engines don't usually come out easy because they have a block up in there that holds it. So I take a pry bar, the bigger the better. I have a bigger one past this. Pry against the structure. Now, up here, there's a hole right here. This is where I'm gonna put my vampire stake. This is just to hold the engine from swinging back in, because I gotta get back in there to take the fuel filters off. So this is exactly why I have my sucker. You see this hose right here? This is for an evac system. So literally you can plug into it and suck the oil out of it. My truck's not set up for it. You would plug it in right there and suck all the oil out of it. It still makes a mess of the filter, but it makes it easy. Instead of disassembling that garbage and just making a mess and stuff, I just use my pneumatic sucker. This is one of the greatest tools I've bought. I started with this when I started my career at Mercedes-Benz. Best thing ever, stick it down the dipstick tube. Now a lot of people are gonna say, well, hey, it doesn't suck all the oil out. Actually, it does if you do it correctly. So you have to know how much oil is in your machine before you start sucking, so to make sure you pull enough out. Either look it up in the book, or if you read, this is a 9-liter with refill. So it's basically 9 quarts. So as long as I get out about 8.5 quarts, I'm good with that. On this sucker, each one of these bars is about 2 quarts. So in theory, I should be 2, 4, 6, 8. So I should be about right here, dang near to the top. So make sure you don't overfill these, because it's a bad time. Like I said, this makes a mess when you pull the oil filter. So I take pig mat, rags, it dumps a lot of oil, you'd be surprised. So I fill this whole bottom engine tray with pig mat. That way I'm not having to deal with getting oil all over the ground and chasing it with brake clean and rags. It's easier just to take a little bit of time now to fill up this tray with pig mat. You'll thank me later. Let's go ahead and fire up my PTO and my power unit, and we'll get to draining. Alright guys, I turned off the audio for this section because it was really loud from the power unit. You couldn't hear anything I was saying, and it was really annoying. But I sped up this section so you can just see the oil actually fill up the sucker. It makes it right up near the top, and then we'll move on to the next step. Pull your hose. Now this is what I like to do. I should have done this while it was on. Clean out your hose. I'll do it later here properly. Put this back up. See if there's any remnants. We probably won't have much of anything, but we'll see. I've been surprised where I pulled like 12 quarts out of a 9-quart engine, so I've been surprised. A little bit in there still. Alright, we have got our oil out of it. Pig mat out. Before we do anything, next step is to put the engine oil in the engine. I always put it in case somebody walks up and starts the machine, does something stupid even though it's disabled, but stuff happens, guys. So last thing you want to do is get in trouble for not putting oil in an engine. So here's all our pig mat. I don't know if you can see the difference in the color. Oh yeah, you can. See, there's a ton of oil in that pig mat, and there's even still up there. So I'm actually going to spray some more brake clean in there, and then I'm going to move the pig mats over here, and we'll do the fuel filters. So I always clamp off these lines. I just always do both on both fuel filters. I do one filter at a time, but I do both lines because they'll keep running on some of these machines how the pump setup style is. So you'll literally run it out of fuel and you'll make a mess. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Good times, good times. Let's see if these are per his usual tightness. That one wasn't too bad. Dump the filter. Put it in my bucket, filter bucket. Grab my new one. Take me a little diesel fuel. Lubricate the gasket. Make sure I got my gasket because I didn't look. Put it back on. Do my water sensor. So these, you can drain the fuel out of them if you want, with like, and put a tube here and do that. I just pull the whole filter off, and then that's just how I do it. It works best for me that way, because these don't have fuel dumping out the top if you clamp the lines. If you forget to clamp the lines, then you'll be hating your life. if you're ever pushing, ratchet, whatever, don't keep your hand grabbed like this, because if it goes, you're gonna punch stuff. Always keep your hand flat so the tool hits an object and not your hand. Regardless of what you're doing, taking a filter off, doing a big ratchet, always make sure you don't leave your hands to get smashed. This one was tight. Not as tightest, but tight. What I like to do now is where I take my Nippex, lightly grab the water sensor bowl thing, whatever it's called. This is not a bowl, it's just a sensor with a drain. Helps if you have them set right. Okay, lightly loosened. Because this one, I like to drain out the bottom first to see how much water was in the system. Okay, just drain it real quick and see. Very, very little water in the system, if any. It's tough to tell if they use green diesel and not red diesel. Red diesel makes it easier to tell. Green diesel, if it comes out brown, you know, but it hides water a little bit better than red diesel. Take some fresh diesel, gasket. Plug it back in, don't forget. Only goes one way. If it doesn't go in smooth, don't force it. You know, people ask me why I call these lineup bars vampire steaks. When I used to work on Blackhawks in the Army, we had stakes for the rotor blades, and somebody said it one day as a slang term. I called it a vampire steak. I stuck with it, even though it's not made of the right material to kill vampires. Hey, that one went in all the way. A lot of the times what'll happen, the engine will get stuck, and you can't reach it with the bolt. So I take that big dead blow I showed you, I got it from Caterpillar, and I hit it about right here a couple times, and it gets close enough for the bolt to pull it in. I have to do some inspections on it because it's due for an annual inspection, and I'll go over the whole machine and check stuff, and then I'll take you for a ride to the inside. Alright guys, taking you on the journey here. This truck driver was nice enough to let me go in first. That way I didn't have to wait for him to get unloaded while he was blocking the door. Unfortunately, this distribution center they're building only has one main ramp in and out, so it can get crowded with traffic and cause problems. But now we're just driving over to the site where the contractor who's assigned to this machine is, and I'll drop it off. Alright guys, that's going to sum it up. Hope you enjoyed the video. Driving the boom, that was pretty cool to film. It did go a little rougher than I anticipated. When I backed out of where I had it parked near my truck, I turned the wheels too sharp. And when you have the wheels going too sharp, you really have to drive slow, because, I mean, the higher you are in the air and the farther you are away from the platform increases the magnification of all the forces felt on the ground. So for example, if you're 50 feet in the air and you run over like a 2x4, for example, it will literally like catapult you. That's why it's so required for safety. A lot of people will like basically build cribbage to put like boom lifts up on and stuff because the ground's not flat, and that's a big no-no. because if those wheels come off that cribbage and somebody's in that basket and they're way up in the air, it's literally going to catapult them like a slingshot, like out of the basket, do damage to the machine, can kill the operator. Those boom lifts are dangerous. You just always have to remember that everything is amplified in the basket. So you saw me when I came out, I turned a little sharp and I was driving a little fast. But since I was going sharp, I was trying to straighten my wheels out because I knew I was coming around a little fast, because I knew since my wheels were turned really far that if I stopped, it was gonna throw me really bad. So I was trying to straighten my wheels and the stick went a little too far forward and it engaged like, hey, stop. So then it stopped and it threw me all around. So always slower is better. Like when I was driving into the building, I was driving real slow. You know, whenever you're going into any type of a hill or an obstacle, anything where you're not in the wide open, I mean, going slow is always better because it will throw you side to side, up and down. That's why you wear a harness, and that's why you got to be as safe as possible about it. But anyways, guys, that's going to sum it up. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to throw them in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please shoot me a like and a subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks, guys.